Next two presentations are going to look at that. CFO's presentation, Office of the CFO. If you can stay around. Can I do that? I'm just wondering. Two presentations. The one is for the Directorate for Corporate Services. So I'm going to ask rather that we get the presentation from the Office of the CFO, if that's entirely okay, since it's a finance-related matter. Can we do that? Because then we can combine that discussion. So now you've gotten a picture of an outside stakeholder looking into the municipality, looking at your debtors analysis, looking at your cash flow situation. Those little blocks in red just pops out all the time. Can I now have a presentation from the Office of the CFO? Are you coming? The CFO is just warming up his laptop, finding his presentation. So I think while we're waiting for the CFO, let me just mention that as an institution, it's a pity Mr. Keke is not here, but I know his counterpart is sitting there. As an institution, the purpose of a municipality is to generate revenue from the public at large and use it for a public good. So a road, for example, is a public good because, and just like street lighting, it doesn't belong to anybody. It's a public good. It belongs to all of us. So we collect revenue across the whole municipality and then we build all these public goods that we collectively share. Now, the challenge that I'm picking up is that we need to jack up our revenue collection. Because if we do not do that, we're going to be sitting with a problem that we can't build public goods. The other thing that I popped up, that came out of the presentation, were those percentages around collection as well as spend, if I'm reading you correctly, ma'am. You know, around our percentage spending, which is below the norm. I saw below the norm. And this makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Some areas that we need to jack up. But let me also just mention that, I don't know if you know that the municipality had a unqualified audit 21-22, which I think is definitely moving in the right direction. It shows that the municipality is competent in being able to manage its own resources, although there are rooms for improvement like the ones we're mentioning now. So that's a point of concern. Okay, we just, are we sorted Songezo? Up and running? Yebo? Oh, thank you very much. I've just inherited a car. Somebody didn't make it to the meeting early on time, and we've just inherited a car. It looks like a BMW that we picked up. So, if there's a BMW that is on auction, I don't know, it looks like a smart BMW. Oh, it's Chief Whips. Yo, I thought it was a donation towards the municipality. We could have used it in the fleet. Are you ready, Msagas? What's up? Sorted?
Not yet.
The system. Okay. In the meantime, while we just sorting out, let us also make sure that corporate services' presentation is also ready, so that we don't have any delays. Is it? Ma'am, is your presentation also loaded? Corporate services? Is your presentation also loaded? Ne? Okay. Here's a USB. You should use mine. Oh. Over to you. Thank you, ma'am. We need that kind of spirit. We need that kind of spirit. Diabulela. Over to you, CFO.
Thanks, facilitator. That was a nice song. Greetings to yourself, Executive Mayor, Chief Whip, Speaker, MMMCs, as John Pegler, your councillors, as Connors Pagatukuitu, as well as other leadership that surround us, and colleagues and stakeholders from other departments. This afternoon, I greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. The presentation is very short because it has, has presented on the same matters, Treasurer has presented. Just to confirm what they have presented in their presentations. I hope it's going to be confirming exactly that. I'm trying to put this on a slide, what the smooth is it? Okay, there you are. Thank you. The purpose, presentation outline is the purpose, prior year's financial performance, media assessment and adjustment budgets, receipts versus billing, National Treasury Circular 123, with key focus areas in terms of the budget for the 2023-24 MTRF. Purpose to present the preparation of budget financial status, as well as to process to be followed in terms of provision of the budget. I won't bother ourselves about the small tables. Maybe can you see them here? If then that's good. The table shows immediate assessment, no comparison from the previous budget. That is in terms of our original budget, which was set to increase from the actual of 2020-26 by 13%, and it increased to 10% in the previous year, and then increased to 9% in the following. I think this was captured in by presentation yak. But I'll go to the overall summary. It says overall increase of 35% from 2019-06 to 2022-06. That's about 3 years. The average is around 10%. If you look, 9 to 10%. Own revenue increased with about 40%, which is commendable. I so hope that we're collecting that whole 40% in full in terms of its data. Operating grants increased by 23% over that period of 3 years. Interest on own investment has decreased by 8%. Then that's where the problem. I am a dog. Oh. Okay. Thanks, MMC. Interest on own investment has decreased by 8%. Now we need to ask ourselves, has it gone down by 8%? It's because we no longer have more reserves to put in the bank to assist the municipality so that it can cater for assets and all other stuff. We need to build those reserves in terms of the budget that we're going to be preparing now. such that sizokwazi uba sibe ne-own investments that can assist umasipala moving forward. Interest on outstanding debtors decreased by 20%. That was a good move again. Because if your interest on outstanding debtors has decreased with that significant amount, it tells that the turnaround in terms of you turning the debtors into liquid cash has improved a little bit. Fines and penalties have decreased by 71%, which is not good in terms of looking at the years, comparable years. That's a very huge amount of money. I think public safety and all other departments that are involved in terms of collecting fines and penalties need to try and improve the revenue collection and come up with strategies in the strat session that we are in now in terms of turning the situation around. Both was said about getting onto the template. It's just a straightforward template comparing year on year, 2019 to 2026, change or increase around 82%. Those are actual results. Hence, you'll find that the difference might be big. In 2021-06, reduction of 99%. 2006, a reduction of 40%. Oh, those are profits, sorry. The net in-land expenditure increase was 19%, it reduced to 6%, and again increased to 14% in the previous year. And then comes the original budget for 2022-23, the year we are in. That was less by 6% from actual of the previous year. The overall expenditure increased by 27% over the 3-year period. Employee costs increased by 24%. That means an average of around 6%. Bulk purchases increased by 51%, while the revenue increased by 32%. Mathematically, this is a deficit of 19. I would want to draw the attention of the strat plan that year on year we've been experiencing higher percentage increases in relation to ESCOM. And we allowed percentages that are lower or less than what ESCOM has been allowed. So that results in a number of deficit, the sales as well as the bulk purchases decreasing. Because if you've got a margin of 19%, it tells you the profits that we're making then have suddenly diminished and they are reducing bit by bit year on year. So we need to come with strategy to deal with that. Conducted services increased by 47%. That's a huge increase. The reason is the change of classification. Remember, these were classified in the past as repairs, as classified as material expenses. Now, with the introduction of M-score, the bulk of those are going to contracted services. And contracted services includes, amongst other things, the repairs that we're contracting out to various service providers. Inventory consumption material increased by 107%. That again talks to the same material that we're using for repairs and other and maintenance, those two items. In the main, they are talking to those items. General expenses increased by 44% over the period, the period linear of 3 years. Then debt impairment decreased by 70%. That's at the bottom of the slide. It might not be reflecting correctly because it's on that green dot. I apologize for that one. Then coming to media assessment. Media assessment was presented by MM. I will only look at comments around the adjustment budget because I was repeating what he indicated earlier on. No, provincial trust also projected the media performance. Overall, the revenue has been adjusted up by 30%. That is the adjustment budget. Coming from revenue of 16% or interest on outstanding debtors, an increase of 3 million for refuse charges, 3 million for the revenue, other revenue, and 2.6 million for agency services. Agency services, for understanding, it relates to licenses and traffic-related services. There was an increase of about 2.6 million during that period. Refuse removal, the increase relates to skips removal. There was a reconciliation as well as looking into a reconciliation of the skips that have been removed to revenue. So that is assisted because that is drastically improved as well as in Ansiga the SLAs that were signed with the department, businesses within town. So that paper brought hope to KSD in terms of us accommodating some other items. Receipts versus billing, I think this one was also presented by during that stage when he was here on the floor. And this one as well. These are receipts versus billing. I'll make this available for commission so that they can measure their items in terms of performance per each section. Overall, the expenditure has been adjusted up by 4 million. We had to cut the expenditure down where there were savings so that we can cater for other items of expenditure like electricity, the 15 million that mentioned earlier on. There is an adjustment of 21 million from employee cost. We're also contemplating or requesting that we might consider the issue of moratorium on certain posts, as well as trying to cap employee costs was new because of challenges that we have. Increase 7 million for inventory consumed. That's the one that I mentioned earlier on. That relates to repairs and maintenance. 7 million for contracted services. That is in relation to e-security for public safety. And 10 million for other expenditure. Oh, thank you. Sorry for that. Now, I would want us to look into this table that's in front of us. This one is what is called funding master. The only change that's going to be here is in relation to the budget, upcoming budget, that we are going to be discussing and coming out with after the strat plan. The only change that's there is on equitable share. We've seen that since it's 428, not 434, as it was an indicative figure, that 434. The rest of the expenditure earmarked budgeted on revenue has been increased at 5%. Circular treasury, I'm still going to go through your so that are we in line with the treasury circular, the one that was published last week? As well as the expenditure, those are indicative figures from prior year. These are still gonna change. Priorities in terms of our own budget this year. The first one that has come from most discussions was disaster in relation to electricity and road infrastructure. The recent circular is saying electricity jola is a disaster. So we need to start looking at it throughout the country. I've shared the circular with the rest of the directors and HMs. Repairs and maintenance, there is 45 million that talked to. He only omitted the repairs in relation to roads, where they are looking for 60 million. In total, it's 105 million that infrastructure is looking for repairs that we have to, as part of our budget, sacrifice here and there and make sure that we get that one. There's an issue of electricity infrastructure where we need to look for other sources of financing and finance that one and make sure that it's dealt with, as well as the road infrastructure, because it's collapsing because of these heavy rains and disasters. We need also to consider the issue of cost containment policy that we have as a municipality. Prioritize in terms of the circular as well, service delivery spending and revenue collection should also be prioritized. SMMEs and local content or local businesses should also be considered in terms of the SMM, of the supply chain. Maximize revenue collection protection as well as enhancements. There are three components in relation to revenue. There's a collection, the protection of the revenue that we have, as well as the enhancement of revenue. Set cost reflective and affordable tariffs. This is one area that I would want to talk to the Executive Mayor. 3 years ago, Treasury appointed a service provider to do cost reflective tariffs. When we looked at those tariffs, they were so huge to the extent that we felt that could pay for those tariffs. This matter is coming up again. Treasury is saying we need to do cost-reflective tariffs. I don't know what's going to be the outcome of those, but I think by the end, when we table the budget, we'll be knowing exactly how much is it. Because the electricity part, they have started looking at it. But our cost, tariffs, cost reflective. They can cover the cost to provide that service. So it's one of the things that it's a thorny issue, but at a certain stage we'll have to face it and make a decision as a municipality. Ibe the key consideration that I think we need to consider. These are not recommendations, but consideration should be considered in each commission. Maximum revenue collection and production enhancement, prioritize expansion on core functions of the municipality, finalization of allocations in terms of KPAs, where we are saying how much slice are we going to give to public safety, how many slice are we going to give to all technical services. We need to finalize that one within this strat plan. Full interpretation of the circular, which circular Lega Treasurer 123 Likobofik, institutionalize budget priorities than departmentalize them. The issue here is when we go for a budget, we will consider ourselves, well, what slice am I going to get? You are not considering what is important in relation to service delivery. What is it that can affect municipality as a whole? Not to say what is going to affect my department. Then that's where we lose it. But if we can look at it holistically to say, what is it for the institution, not for me or for the department? We are requesting that we do that, we follow it that way. Prioritize projects that have a potential of funding itself. Projects that can generate revenue and fund itself moving forward. I will talk of one of the examples that we are still struggling to get to. In relation to community services, refuse removal. That function should be funding projects of refuse removal. At a certain point, we need to get closer to that so that we can be able to generate insufficient funds. Prioritize procurement on SMMEs. I've been talked to that one. Consider moratorium on nice to have expenditure. Identify our expenditure and decide. These ones, let's rather not incur this year and look into these ones. Or if we incur them, minimize them as much as possible. Plan according to available resources. Let's look at revenue. And projects that could not be funded in the current year should be allocated in the MTRF. Items that are sitting on the IDP, we need to make sure that we split them according to the years. If technical services, as 1,000. If you can't afford them, scatter them over the MTRF so that it makes it easy for you to budget and look at the roads ahead. How far have you gone with that? Eliminate unfunded mandates. OMMK is working on that one in terms of getting rid of unfunded mandates. Play according to the available resources, and projects that could not be funded in the current year should be allocated in the MTRF. Consider partnership as well as a public triple Ps. Increase in the grant funding through available grants in the form of BFI, neighborhood grants, and other grants that are there. Consider a loan to fund aging plant and fleet and auction old items of plant and fleet. The plant yet is becoming old bit by bit and cannot cope with the requirements in terms of repairs and maintenance, and consider as well other capital expenditure. I'll go briefly on some of items that are appearing on Circular 123 that I think are key for us to note because the strat plan. One of them, if you look at e-comments treasure, they say GDP forecast at mid-year, it was around 1.4%. Now it's 9%. What does that mean, that change? GDP reduced from 1.4 to 9%. It means a lot in terms of us as well as the economy of the country of South Africa. I'll skip some of that. I think they are not that important. In terms of our preparation of the budget, the actual CPI is 4.9. This year estimate is 6.9 and 5.3. A forecast is 4.9 and 4.7 for the 24-25 and 25-26 years. So 2023-24, the forecast itself, how much is 5.3%. So that is the basis that we cannot exceed in terms of our own revenue, and we cannot exceed in terms of our own expenditure. Because Treasury has made it clear that anybody that goes beyond 6% has to justify why they are going beyond 6%. Local government, e-conditional grants have increased significantly, but if you look at this one, you'd find that there's 6.2 billion in direct conditional grants and 14.3 billion in terms of indirect grants. The grant increase on average has been 7.8%. Or is 7.8% growth. Municipal conditions increased by 3.5% over the 2023 MTRF. One of the most important aspects of that circular is talking about the free basic services. I think Craig mentioned this one when he was here. Treasury is saying equitable share is meant to fund the free basic services. So we cannot be paying creditors out of the equitable share. How much is our equitable share? It's 400 and something million. Half of our revenue budget, it's on equitable share. So we need to look into that. Abantu bebelapha from Salga indicated that we need to look into FBE. Fortunately, there is a program that's coming, if it's still going to go ahead, a year free basic services to public participation here. This one talks to 6.2 billion direct contract is funded from the budget for infrastructure, 2.2 billion urban settlement grant, 461 public transport network, 3.4 billion will go to Solplaatje Municipality, Dragonstein Municipality, and Nelson Mandela Bay Metropolitan. They are going to get a lot of money. What is it that's going to the local municipalities? I mentioned up. I hope that there's something that's going to be coming to the municipalities. Housing emergency grant, human settlement, they are combined there. So it's no longer going to be funded from the national, it's going to be funded on human settlement, disaster account. Changes in in-app conditional grant, they are saying in-app grant, we're funding alternative energy technologies such as rooftop, solar system. The question that comes to KST that we need to look into, when they were here, we have about 6,000 and something that will provide alternative energy in the form of paraffin. Mr. Guadiso, in that engagement, is saying, MMC, how many people do we have that do not have a KST? They are far less than that number. So at a certain point, we need to look into that because in terms of their own performances, that is going to come and haunt us. Reinforcing improvement in intergovernmental relations. Here they are saying, if you decide to go to court, you are taking a legal action within another department, government department, you must make sure that you inform National Treasury within 10 days, you inform Provincial Treasury, you inform Ukokta, and you inform Auditor General when you decide to take that action. If you have done that, you have not complied with the law, any expense that you incur will be deemed irregular. Conditional grants usage grants should be used for what it has been intended for in terms of udora. We need to be careful of that one. Systems, we are in the process of acquiring a new system. A caution has been made in that circular, Mr. Noto and the team, that the Treasury is going to promulgate a new ERP financial system that complies with regulation that we put in place once the regulation will be issued. So that says, the process your procure, we might decide as a municipality whether we wait for Treasury at these companies that can procure from zone, which short circuits the whole thing in terms of procurement. Hoping that Kenaba will be presented as that would be an advantage, but we don't know what's going to happen and when. We're still going to make inquiries about when are they contributing, finishing that exercise. Okay, it's the same thing that I've mentioned earlier on to say equitable share is meant for free basic services. The other issue is the issue of us when we do our budget. Let's be very careful not to budget for too much expenditure because our budget won't be funded. The expenditure must be equal to must be equal to the reliable budget funding in terms of revenue. Sendizawugqiba noko. Saya kula circular, 5.2 of that circular says you must ensure that you budget for replacement and have reserves set aside. We've been budgeting for depreciation out of non-cash items. They are saying that must come to an end. We need to budget for cash for depreciation, though we're not going to pay cash. If we do so, we'll have enough reserves to be put aside for growth, capital assets, growth, so that's many reserves. Tariff setting for electricity, that is being done, but the issue is that ESCOM has given, UNERSA has given ESCOM 18.7% this year. No, it's in this secular South Africa. And on top of that, for FPE, they have given them 2%, which translates to 20.7%. So it's one of the most difficult times that we have to look into. Kuthiwa tariffs should be achieving a balance between cost reflectiveness and affordability. Any tariff that are above 6% will be not accommodated. There's a municipal debt relief that's good news for us in the form of accounts esinazo ko ESCOM. That's in the main for ESCOM. Government has put aside a lot of money for abantu that go and apply for imatyalabo with ESCOM to be relieved. Ndiyaqonda kuba councillor kana kuyayivela ngoba kudala ingqolela yonke le mihle ikhalazela uba ayenziwe. We're going to be given that relief. The conditions are that we need to apply for it now, it is ESCOM write-off of all debts of municipality as at 31st March 2023, excluding the March 2023 current account. Kuthiwa this will be done over the 3 national financial years and require a critical qualification that municipalities monthly cannot honor in monthly installments of ESCOM and water accounts. Secondly, new mechanisms are explored to resolve non-payment. Thirdly, ESCOM implement a regime of installation of prepaid meters. Kuzo zonke indawo zakhe. The bad thing about this one, I'll say it through my experience. I hope somebody from ESCOM is here. ESCOM is faced MMC with the same problem that one sinayo ngoku. As the meters kuthiwa zintoni inqoma ezisifakwa phaya that are not sending revenue to ESCOM are being installed, foreign meters are being installed nasezilalini ngo kwi-areas ka-ESCOM. So the same problem that we have as a municipality, they are going to be having the same problem nabo as ESCOM. Lastly, the National Treasury will continue to implement municipal revenue enhancement initiative. Now, the last part that I wanted to talk to before I get to a conclusion is the issue of the interest rate. UMMC Ghana has been complaining on a number of occasions around the interest that were charged by ESCOM. ESCOM has been charging us prime plus 5%. And I don't know how has that been for a number of years. 5% on top of prime. Even banks do not charge that type of money. Even municipalities, prime plus 1. So there's an issue there. It has been reduced to 2.5. I'm sure government has instructed them to reduce it. The other issues are in terms of emitters. I think Mr. Ngogo and Mr. Kos would be equal to the task, whether we need to look into our meters, whether they are still compliant or not. ESCOM bulk tariff, the one that I've mentioned earlier on, as they have been granted 18.7% on 2023. Yes, 18.7% in 2023-24 this year, in 12.7% in terms of 24-25. Tina, as municipalities at this stage, abakatsho bazasinika engakanani increase because we still have to apply. They will respond before the end of March wabasinika malini ESCOM ulento uNERSA. And chances are it's going to be less than this. Hence, we are encouraged to apply for funding, additional funding. Should it get to that 20%, yabo sikwazi ukhawulezisa apply. I think le nditatshileyo. This is 31 executive mayor. His circular is new as well, the political leadership. This one, it needs to be interpreted correctly. Because it says, heading Yala circular is saying burial of councillors. It councillors' salaries and responsibility for political bearers and members is managed through determination of parliaments of salaries, allowance and benefit of different members of municipal council. Notice issued by the Minister of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs. Section 167 will provide that a municipal may remunerate is come with a framework of Public Office Bearers Act 1998, setting the upper limits on the salaries, allowances and benefits for those political office bearers and members. Any benefit which is not included in the above mentioned notice constitute irregular expenditure and recover thereof from the councillor concerned is mandatory. It's really bad news because we've got what is actually happening. So it will need further engagements between the political leadership, COGTA as well as Unansika, Usalga. Employer-related costs are 5.4%, 4.8% in 2024. Remuneration of councillors will be set in terms of the Gazette. Figure to say how much are they going to be set at. A process plan, that's my last slide. We're saying we need to apply for electricity tariff. NERSA. IDP, PMS and Budget Technical Committee will have to sit on the 8th of March. Unfortunately, we are here. Mayoral Committee meeting to consider issues of budget. 9th March, we are here as well, Executive Mayor, on those days, 8th and 9th. On the 13th, Mrs. Mega Straight Plan says because we should be having this on 13th to the 6th of March 2023. So it means we have to do changes and amend the process plan yet. Council adopts first draft 2023-24. This one is a compulsory date, Executive Mayor. We don't have any other choice, leadership. We have to table a draft budget. So it means there is going to be, it's not a business as usual within the municipality. Thank you.
Diabulela, thank you very much, CFO, for the presentation. It's a lot to take in. Can I now have a round of questions, comments? It's a very important presentation. Councillor, I've noted you. Okay. Now, Inya, Councillor, I've noted you also. Okay. We've just got that two for now. Let's go for it.
Okay.
Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Let's thank the presentation as it was very clear. I've only had one question, and my question relates to councillors' remuneration. And when Mr. Giolo, he said when he starts to deal with that presentation that relates to councillor, he said it needs legal fundis. And my surprise is the institution is supposed to have legal fundis that interprets very clear. Because now we are sitting, and when he talks about remuneration of councillors, he is talking direct to us. So there is no way that he can say that one needs legal interpretation. We need that because it affects us directly. So MM and other fundis, legal gurus, they must interpret that before we go to council and adopt that whatever it is. So we cannot go today without knowing what is that is talking about. Thanks very much.
Enkosi, ma'am.
Enkosi kakhulu Sihlalo. No Sihlalo zinto ukwamkela report ilenza presentation. A few things nendicinga ba are going to affect abantu base KSD. Maybe as we go tomorrow to commissions. Again, if we speak of NERSA and the percentages that are going to go very high, I think we need to discuss issues of alternative energies, so that we do that, so we are able to service our people at a rating right, reasonable to our people. Because Chair, zenza uNERSA pa, but abantu bona pa on the ground, bazawuthi adurumba nase KSD, while we are not even allowed to ukunyusa thina umbane ngaphezulu kuka Eskom, but abantu bazobona expensive. Esibini into encinga yasenzakalisa nasikhaleze sayisondelela lenye nokwenza nezi foreign meters that are taking a lot to our from our grid, and we are unable to account for. We need to work with the law enforcement agencies to cap that. Yabona ke unyanisile uCFO xa isithi even in rural areas. In rural areas where Eskom operates, he even knows where Eskom, uyayazi sothola ukuba pha kulandawo andikwazi ukungena. So there are these things encinga bazifuna ukujonga. If MMC Ghana la grant into wenza sibiza ngoba thina iparaffin, there are other things that you can do that are related to energy. I think let's move away from that thing of paraffin, because from where I am seated, it makes individuals to be rich, but the ones that should provide for them to remain poor, because we'll have 20 liters of paraffin for 3 months, or in fact for 2 weeks, then after that, iphelile paraffin. But there is somebody out of that who will become a millionaire, of which not have a problem to create millionaires, but let's check how do we create millionaires. The last one, I have seen ilungu lika Cocta likhona apha. I think the first stop of them now that there's a new minister, fortunately the minister is coming from Cocta. At least now we have hope that now that the president has appointed somebody who have a background of the local municipalities, this sphere of government. This is the sphere of government that has been set for a failure. Just for the information of those who are in the session, that councillors are being paid as part-time councillors, ward councillors, while they need them to be on the ground on a day-to-day basis, but they are paid as part-time. They can do their other things other than being a councillor. But you can tell me who can be a ward councillor and have another job? It's not possible. But those people are getting paid as part-time councillors. So now there comes this secular. Esbega ngaphansi more as councillors. So I think it's a matter of emergency, this matter of Cocta to engage with the current minister that has been recently appointed by the president, so that we can be able to address issues of Salka to have a session with the minister. Now that the minister has been appointed, she literally knows what is happening in local government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, facilitator. Thank
I
you.
recognize you.
Dalindyebo is my name. From Tudumayo's land. in King Sabata Dalindyebo Municipality, a member entrusted with the responsibility of the rural and economic development in this space. But my question that I just want to ask, I found it confusing me when the treasurer was presenting. They said we are doing well when it comes to contracted services. And then they just pointed the percentage that we're doing well upon in terms of the norms. And then when the CFO was presenting, he is saying we are at 47%, which is not recommended or applauded percentage. Now, as a member who is in this session, I find it confusing me, but I will be clarified by them because they are both here as we speak. Secondly, I just want to be clarified what is regarded as a nice to have expenditure in a public institution. My question emanates from the consideration of the moratorium over nice to have expenditure. So may we be clarified in this space that what is regarded as a nice to have expenditure. Also, on the cost containment measures, which interest is on the beneficiation of the SMMEs. I think we need to be clarified on that space, because in reality, in the process of these cost containment measures, the SMMEs are suffering. We have a responsibility to make a conducive environment for them to trade within the space, rendering services for what we must have. But in the process, they suffer. I think when the treasurer, the provincial treasurer is here and the CFO is here, they can also assist this session when it comes to that. I thank you, Chair.
Agos, thank you. Okay, let us take that round to our two guests, our guest speaker as well as our CFO, and then we will then look at another round of questions. Let me start with the Treasurer, Provincial Treasury in the corner. You can speak from there, ma'am.
Thank you, facilitator. Thank you, Councillor, with your question. My presentation of 1% of contracted services is the past performance of the previous years. It's not the medium term percentage. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. I think it was a comment there, yes, a interpretation, secular, that says it needs to be interpreted. It still needs to be interpreted. The reason why I said that is because we've got a policy that allows for items that are not cited in that secular. Hence, it needs to be looked into in terms as well as the policy itself. The other one from Chief Whip was a comment as well from MMC Dudumayo. It's clear into it as the look at the presentations there to MMC. What we looked into from our side, we started from 2019 up to today. The budget might have increased, but overall, this has increased in terms of that same percentage, not in line with the 25 increase in relation to expenditure. That's what we're trying to emphasize. The second issue, it's nice to have, if you would look at the circular on cost containment measures, it's very clear. Well, what items shouldn't we be doing? It's talking about a number of items, sports, sponsoring, it's quite a number of them. Maybe I'll have to share that circular as well as the policy as a KSD with the Commission Zonga MMC. Otherwise, ndiyayazi uba kwelakho kwicala is gonna hit hard on you, because part of what you are doing is actually to do sponsors nento zenzayo ngezinye. It's actually very strong in relation to those. They are regarded as not in service deliver related expenditure. But again, we need to look into that and try to look into it. ESMM is chairperson, MMC. They are provided for in terms of the revised SCM policy, where we are actually giving them 20 points or in total advantage over abantu that are outside of MTHATHA. So that means they were taking care of them. I don't think you need to be worried about that one. What we should be looking for is the actual expenditure that is prohibited in terms of that cost containment. I think I've responded, not unless Mr. Schle.
Councillor, over to you.
No, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to probably make a few additions. One of them is on the free basic services, that the basket of free basic services is free basic energy, free basic refuse removal, and as well as free basic water and sanitation. Basically, those that can actually be funded from service charges. So in terms of free basic energy, currently we give 50 units as a municipality to all indigent households. But in the event that you do not have electricity, you are not connected on the grid, we then provide alternative energy. So that alternative energy then becomes a decision of the municipality. It could be paraffin, it could be gas, it could be solar, it could be many other issues. So there's no prescription insofar as the alternative energy is concerned. Our recommendation has been very consistent as the Finance Committee to say we need to do away with the paraffin. We need to rather redirect this free basic energy towards funding electrification of indigent households. So that's what one of the things that we'll be doing. But I am of the view that we will be recommending to the state plan as well as to the executive mayor post the state plan a clear issue that in the context of us now looking broadly on the energy crisis, we should have a focused issue around the equitable share issues. So I think that's one. The second issue around the nice to haves. These are all the things that we can still be able to implement a municipal service even with or without doing them. There are basic things that for this municipal service to be delivered are required, and without that, it would not be possible. A simple example is that I was making an example not so long ago that every Sunday you have people gathered in a church every Sunday. So it's either you decide that you will wait for those people to go to work or not go to work or be unemployed, and then you spend more money transporting them to a venue rather than probably going direct to engage through the church and to address them there. From time to time, people will go to imbizo, yenkosi. So it's up to you whether you decide that no, mandiyeke le imbizo yenkosi where people are already gathered, and you organize your own, you transport people to your own imbizo when you could have got the very same people bekula mbizo yakomkhulu. Now, instead of transporting them, you could probably assist Elakomkhulu by this or that other thing that can actually assist cooperative governance between local government and traditional leaders. So it's about the quality of expenditure. The issue here is not about, it's not about that we should not spend public funds, but it's about the impact that we are making as we spend these public funds, thin as they are. The point that also we want to emphasize, in KSD, in terms of the annual financial statements, the value of our non-current assets, the roads, transport, electricity, electricity infrastructure, fleet, everything that we use, the value of those assets is about 2.7 billion, way above. So, we are supposed to budget for operating those particular assets, just on repairs and maintenance, if we're talking 8% of that, leave other operational issues, it's about 200 million on repairs and maintenance alone. We are not able currently to afford that. So the point about cost containment is about how do we free up some of the money that we are using for things that we can live without in order to increase money available for the actual services to our people. Because that's the actual the point. But what are the things that a municipality is measured on in terms of services? And the municipality is measured in terms of delivering roads, access roads, is measured in terms of providing electricity, is measured in terms of collecting waste, is measured in terms of providing sporting facilities, is measured in terms of providing childcare facilities and all those issues. And in the provision of those, provision is made for the participation of local cooperatives and local SMMEs. In the delivery of those services, provision is made for local SMMEs and local cooperatives. So there can't be an issue that says, when we are redirecting some of the nice to haves towards improving the quality of our expenditure, it's a suffocation of SMMEs. In actual fact, part of the problems that we are having on economic transformation and economic development is an over-dependence of some of the SMMEs on public procurement, which, if you measure now, the budget of the municipality is only about 1.5 billion, as against a 33 billion worth economy. So the question that we should be actually asking is, what is the beneficiation and the creation and the participation of local SMMEs in the industries, in the overall 33 billion worth economy that we are having as a municipality? And this is something we should work together to try and ensure that we increase that particular participation and therefore make them sustainable enterprises that can survive with or without doing business with government. So these are some of the issues that I'm saying we might have to actually look at a strategic level. The last 2 points which I think we want to flag is the inflation. We should have long moved as a municipality towards zero-based budgeting. We want to flag that thing for the state plan. We have not moved towards zero-based budgeting. And the funding master is based on baseline incremental budgeting. It's not based on zero-based budgeting. And that on its own creates a conducive environment for fruitless and wasteful expenditure, because it's not based on zero-based budgeting, where we're able to say, this is what I want to deliver as a service. And E-Systems Act is quite clear on the requirements of running each municipal service. And one of the requirements is that you must be able to deliver this service. Each service must be financially viable. So I do want to throw that, as we will be dealing with financial viability in one of the commissions, but each and every commission that will be discussing any delivery of any service, it must be able to answer us on one question. Is the delivery of this service equitable and sustainable? Is this service financially viable as it stands? And I have a strategic focus on the service of distribution of electricity. To say we need to look on the financial viability of that particular service and improve on certain areas jointly as a municipality. It's a matter that I think we need to look quite closely, look on the alternatives that can be there, broadening the energy source mix and other issues as proposed by the Chief Whip, to look at alternative energy generation capacity, which the Department of Infrastructure is already doing. But we need to then, coordinate and consolidate all those efforts towards a particular direction. So I just wanted to have those few additions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very, very much, MMC. Well said. Before I hand over to the I think the issue around viability is a crucial issue. I've always raised this thing with, around the discussion around electricity. On